the monitors, one of the TV screens, is playing some of the footage. Let's stay with the conversation concerning that. And while a lot of people have been looking at what people such as Liz Truss were saying, it's worth reminding you that Rishi Sunak, without question, had a good night last night. And here to discuss this is Conservative MP for Surrey Heath and former Secretary of State for Levelling Up and a raft of other senior positions, Michael Gove, who joins me now. Mr. Gove, good to see you last night at Wembley. Who came away as a Wembley winner? Who got the cup? Who was the runner-up? Good morning.
Hi, Nick. Well, I think that Rishi was the clear winner, as you indicated. The whole vibe in the hall was very, very positive towards Rishi. He got a number of standing ovations. I mean, I think Liz did well as well. They were both subjected to tough questioning by a lithe young interrogator who's got a great future in broadcasting. I think...
Take the word young out and I'll allow that, but yes, go ahead.
But under tough questioning, news was made. You know, Liz outlined her opposition to new tax rises and to energy rationing, and she also provided reassurance that she wouldn't be splashing out on new Downing Street furniture.
Yes.
But more broadly, I think the arguments that Rishi made about the need to tackle inflation first, and also the need to deal with crime and migration in a tough but compassionate way, I think they resonated, and I think that just judging from the reception in the hall, Rishi was the winner.
Can we talk a little bit about energy rationing, noting, of course, a post that you've had in the past, quite recently, Environment Secretary. Liz Truss ruling out what the French might be doing later this year. Mr. Sunak far more cautious. Who got the right tone, would you say, Michael Gove?
I think, Rishi, look, none of us like the idea of rationing. Absolutely not. And we certainly shouldn't be trying to control or restrict what each of us as individuals do. But what we can do is make sure that we provide people through energy companies and other means with advice on how they can safely and effectively reduce their own energy consumption and energy costs. And I think that we do need to consider may need to consider other measures for non-domestic users as well. But all of us, I think, would want to make sure that people could follow good advice rather than have anything mandated.
How advisable is it for a politician to say no new taxes?
Well, to be fair to Liz, it's been very clear from the beginning of her campaign that she believes that cutting taxes is a way of stimulating the economy and staving off a recession. It's a good Conservative argument that she's prosecuted with brio and flair. My concern, though, is not so much about the prospect of tax cuts in the future. It's about making sure that we deal with inflation first. So it's not a question of whether we should cut taxes. We should in due course. It's just a question of timing and priorities.
You were Secretary of State for Levelling Up. Has enough of levelling up been addressed during this process between the two contenders? And who do you think would be better placed to continue the policies?
I don't think enough focus and attention has been placed on it, but I think both candidates have stressed the importance of carrying on with Boris's mission of supporting overlooked and undervalued communities. Liz has outlined plans for enterprise areas, which is a way of building on the example of free ports. But free ports were originally introduced by Rishi. Rishi, working with me and with other ministers, pioneered the Levelling Up Fund, which has brought energy and resources to our high streets. It's also the case that Rishi's been endorsed by Ben Houchen, who is the the mayor of Tees Valley.
Indeed.
One of the most impressive local leaders there is. And even while the campaign has been going on, we've given new powers to North Yorkshire, we're giving new powers to the East Midlands. So that combination of strengthening local leadership and providing support for these communities has been carrying on. But we do need to double down, because it is those communities that are going to be worst hit by the cost of living crisis.
Liz Truss has indicated she would suspend the Green Levy. Is she right so to do?
Well, I'm wary about that, because I think that the money that's raised actually, in many cases, goes towards contributing towards reducing energy consumption, to making sure that homes are more energy efficient. But again, to be fair to Liz, her approach is to try everywhere to look to how we can reduce taxes in order to liberate resources for economic growth. My worry is that some of the tax cuts that Liz has talked about so far would benefit the wealthy, and that the people who are going to be hit hardest by the cost of living crisis are not the people who would benefit from a reduction in corporation tax for big companies or abandoning the national insurance increase. But as I say, Liz has made this argument consistently, coherently, and with great passion. And should she win, then she will have a mandate to go ahead with that.
Both candidates spoke warmly of Boris Johnson, Liz Truss suggesting history will judge him probably better than he is now, and Rishi Sunak paying tribute to the man before, of course, there was the parting in the ways. Michael Gove, did Boris have to go?
Well, in the end, I think it was incredibly difficult for Boris to carry on. I had a conversation with him, details of which I think have been reported, on the morning before he stood down. And I said to him then that the number of ministers who were likely to resign would mean that if he did want to stay on, he would face a vote of no confidence, which he would almost certainly lose. And I didn't want to see him go that way. I thought that he should take control of the process. Boris wanted to fight on, which is was entirely his prerogative, and I can understand why. But 24 hours later, he recognised that he'd lost the effective confidence of the Parliamentary Conservative Party. However, I think that both Liz and Rishi are right, that Boris made mistakes, but we should also remember the big things that he got right. Getting Brexit done, getting an 80 seat majority.
Mr. Gove? With the Northern Is Brexit done, Mr. Gove?
Yes. I think it's really important that we make it clear that Brexit has been done, and that we get on with making the most of the freedoms and the benefits that accrue to us. And the other two things I was just going to mention briefly are we must also remember that Boris was responsible for the vaccine task force, the vaccine rollout, which helped get us out of the COVID pandemic faster than other countries. And of course, the support he's given to Ukraine means that in that country they know that Britain is their staunchest ally.
But, Mr. Gove, we still have the issue of the so-called Northern Ireland Protocol and truck drivers queuing at Dover halfway up the M2, and you're telling me that Brexit is done?
Yes, and I think the thing with the Northern Ireland Protocol is that it was always envisaged that it would be a temporary solution to a set of complex challenges on the island of Ireland. I think with goodwill they can be overcome. I think that there's an understanding both between Britain and the EU about the sorts of changes that need to be made in order to ensure that the situation improves. And then when it comes to some of the broader questions, we know that there are freedoms that we can undertake outside the European Union on everything from the free ports I mentioned earlier, which can be vehicles for growth and enterprise and innovation, through to some of the changes that we can make in technology, which means that we can improve the way that we grow crops and breed livestock, through to ways in which we can establish new medical cures more quickly and without the red tape that we currently have.
Mr. Gove, you said that Boris felt he couldn't fight on. Will he one day fight back? Will Boris one day return?
Well, I think Boris is a great talent, and he's got public service in his genes. So I hope that we'll be in a position where Boris can play a part in helping this country in the future. What that role is, I don't know. But we will have a new Prime Minister on Monday, and I think all Conservatives will want to give whoever that is, Liz or Rishi, their full support. I know Boris will.
Indeed, but of course he wouldn't be. And indeed, Winston Churchill, of course, Boris Johnson is a huge fan and has written an acclaimed biography. Churchill came back. Can Boris?
Well, again, I think we've got to focus on making sure that the new Prime Minister on Monday gets all our support and the best possible chance. I don't think, as we're reflecting on the challenges the new Prime Minister faces, that speculation beyond making sure that we're all rowing behind them is helpful to anyone, least of all Boris. But I think it's really important to recognise that Boris will, I'm sure, have a significant role to play in the future of the country.
Just lastly, enough questions of Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss. Let's talk about Michael Gove. There was a
Must we?
Yes, we must, and my audience are crying out for it. There was a report in the paper earlier this week that the Lib Dems are targeting the seat of Surrey Heath because they've picked up on the network that Michael Gove is about to stand down. Say it ain't so, Michael.
It's not so. I'll be continuing as MP for Surrey Heath for as long as my constituents want me. It's a fantastic constituency to represent, and I will be standing up for the people of Frimley and Camberley, Windlesham, Chobham, West End, Lightwater and Bagshot. And I have to say, when I read this report, I thought, well, the Lib Dems have already chosen a candidate, and now they're re-advertising it. I thought, what a pity that the guy who was chosen clearly isn't good enough to stand, according to Lib Dem HQ. I thought it was really unfair of the Lib Dems to say that their current candidate wasn't up to it. So I feel quite sorry for him. Perfectly nice chap. And I hope the Lib Dems will apologise to their candidate for undermining him in this way.
If Liz Truss were to triumph next week, will we see you at the top table, Michael Gove?
I don't think so. I think Liz has got a very, very talented team of supporters. She will want to make sure that she has a cabinet wholly aligned with her agenda and plans. And if she wins, then I really do wish her the best of luck, and I'll be cheering her on.
But were the ball to come out of the back of the scrum towards you, you'd pick it up and run with you. That is to say, you would serve if you were asked, wouldn't you?
I think anyone who's seen me play rugby would know that if the ball would come out of the back of the scrum, it would be very, very difficult for me to pick it up. I'd almost certainly fumble it and fall flat on my face in the mud.
You're not going to serve under Liz Truss, I don't
No, well, I don't anticipate at all being in government if Liz wins. But what I do want to do is to carry on as a Conservative MP, making the case for my constituents, standing up for them, and making the case for a compassionate Conservative Party that wants to help the poorest in our society, improve our schools, tackle problems in our prisons, improve the environment, and most important of all, to make sure that we help more people to get on the housing ladder and help people in private rented accommodation and in council houses to have decent homes.
Last couple of questions. Earlier this week, Alan, now Lord Sugar, said, quotes, the biggest liars in 2016, Brexit, were Boris and Gove. They should both go to jail. Your response, Michael Gove?
You're fired.
Thank you for that one. And lastly, you've just come back from a well-earned break in Ibiza. I hope you have a good time. I've looked at the website for your hotel. It wants guests to, quotes, get into the groove of those who break the rules. What rules did you break in Ibiza, Mr. Gove?
Well, the hotel, Ushuaia, also has a club attached, and I was there on my birthday. Those Ibiza regulars know that you only really get going clubbing after about sort of 2 a.m. I was there from 9 until just before midnight, so far from breaking any rules. I was in the crumbly corner of the club with some outdated moves, but I do have to say Calvin Harris, who was behind the decks, did a great set.
Good speaking with you. Thanks for coming on the show. Michael Gove appearing here on LBC. 3 minutes after 9. The news is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 9 o'clock. Liz Truss says she won't introduce any windfall taxes for energy companies if she becomes Prime Minister, despite them recently making huge profits. But